So there's a little bit of noise. So there was a drunk driver who drove through the law firm above me.
Holy crap.
Drove through their office. Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your cannabis business podcast. Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your cannabis business podcast. Today we've got Chuck Warner. He's a founder and CEO of Cannabis Tech Today. He's also involved with the Emerge virtual conference and a whole lot of other cool stuff. So Chuck, thanks for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. You've been on my short list because we always keep an eye on the different podcasts out there, and I love what you're doing.
I appreciate it. I just saw some really cool stuff on your website yesterday about a pro roll or roll pro. Did you see that interview about the cylindrical joint, not a cone?
Yes. That's the kind of stuff that you're going to see, on Cannabis Tech Today. We're trying to, not be just another lifestyle publication, but really bring some of the cool, some of these cool kind of tech and sciencey stories to the mainstream in cannabis.
So this is going to be revolutionary because cones aren't the ideal draw, right? If cones were ideal, then you would see big tobacco kind of copying suit. But here we're seeing a new revolutionary way to make cannabis cigarettes, if you will, not the cones. So I first saw this on your site for Cannabis Tech and Today. That's probably the coolest thing I've seen in 5 years since I tried to pitch something very similar to that to the marijuana show, like Shark Tank for Cannabis 5 years ago. Finally on the scene, finally making those. So very cool. That might be my favorite story of the year.
It's cool. The technology is getting better. I think that was one of the biggest challenges with pre-rolls was you didn't know what you were going to get. Sometimes you get one that draws great and sometimes you get one you're like, what the heck is going on? So I think some of the where the technology is going is to fill the cones more evenly so that you can get a more consistent experience, and it's not like the grab bag. You get what you get, when you're buying a pre-roll.
Tell me how you started getting into the industry or how you started Cannabis and Tech, kind of what got you started and what it's all about.
Yeah. So Cannabis Tech Today, we've been around, I guess we're going on about 2.5 years now. And over at our company, Innovative Properties, we make all kinds of tech magazines in different verticals. So our flagship is called Innovation and Tech Today. It's kind of the CES type stuff. It's got a lot of gaming, smart home, cybersecurity, that kind of stuff. And we've been doing that and just really enjoying being in the space, being a partner with all the major events. And then, I'm a part owner in a cannabis tech company. And we were thinking, we need a tech magazine in the cannabis space. There's a lot of great business magazines. There's a lot of great lifestyle magazines. We love all the brands that are out there. We just thought we could bring little bit of our expertise in making really high quality publications, celebrities on the cover, but really good content too. And that was sort of the brainchild. It was like living in Denver and being a part owner of a cannabis tech company. We were like, let's do a spinoff from Innovation and Tech Today. And it was received really well. It was something that a lot of people said, hey, this is cool. We were looking, for this type of a magazine to sort of complement everything else that was out there in the space. And so that was a few years ago. And we've been really going strong. And it's actually one of our best selling and most popular publications out of the 5 we have here.
One of my crystal ball predictions for 2020 was that automation AI was going to kind of take over. We were going to see vertical integration or vertical farming and AI and all of these things. Didn't quite happen, but maybe this is the year. Where do you kind of see, 2021 playing out with new innovation, automation, and technology?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think that, the cannabis industry is moving fast, it's resourceful. People are, they're looking to scale. There's other people moving in, states are coming online. It's definitely, even though the pandemic was crazy and affected a lot of people, I would say the industry is still looking to innovate, and move forward. Some of the stuff that we've noticed, obviously, because of the pandemic, contactless service. So any kind of kiosks, Touchless delivery has become really big, since the pandemic. We're just noticing a lot of stuff on the retail and dispensary side. And I would say that, yeah, I think there is more automation, and I think there's more of that kind of smart technology going in on the cultivation side as well, because they're still continuing to, have new builds and have new cultivation facilities, and they want the latest and greatest tech. So, a lot of these panels that we're on, a lot of these things that I'm checking out is, yeah, they want to know how they can be in line just with, the greatest cultivators across all spectrums, so they're using the same technology and the same, artificial intelligence and things like that. But that's a really good question, because I think that, this cannabis industry is hungry and resourceful, and I think that they want to be on top of the tech side as well. Especially how important it is to have good yields and to put out good quality product.
All right, so post-pandemic, we've seen a lot of changes. I'm just going to do a voiceover for this. So
Okay.
post-pandemic, we've seen a lot of changes in the industry, and so I'm wondering your take on all of that. What have you kind of seen where people have taken a pause in 2020, and how they're like redirecting with the whole shift of post-pandemic? There's a lot of shifts. I think, like for example, in Washington, we might see people moving towards delivery where we don't have
Mhm.
that. So what's been put on pause due to the pandemic, and what's been given a fast track?
Yeah, I think that, obviously what's been put on pause is events, and how the industry gets together. I mean, the events are kind of the sort of the lifeblood, of this industry, and it's where people get together to learn. It's where people get together to, see old faces and network. And let's be honest, a lot of business gets done, at a lot of these events. So I think removing that from the equation really forced a lot of businesses to kind of say, okay, cannabis is essential. How do we continue, to grow our business, and how do we continue to move forward when we've lost a pretty important part of the industry? So I definitely think the events, but I will also say that I think a lot of brands have just kind of chilled out. Maybe they want to wait out the storm. I think other ones have actually used this as an opportunity to reset, to look inward, and maybe to form new partnerships or new ideas. Because right now you can get a hold of everybody. Like, I mean, everybody's pretty accessible. Remember how before, when everyone was traveling and, you had business trips and events and things like that, it was hard to get people. Now, a lot of people, they're at home, and they're looking for ideas to collaborate and stuff. You can get almost anybody, because they're at their house, just like, you and I are in Colorado and Washington. So it has opened up some opportunities, but I definitely think that you're on the right track. Delivery, like I was saying earlier, contactless, automating the process, for it. I think that that's grown quickly. And I also think that brands are having to pivot on how they're conducting business. I can even tell you, my company, STM Canna, we used to spend a lot of money every year sending out our techs when we would sell, pre-roll machines or grinders or whatever. We've learned how to save all of that money, and now we're doing remote training, and now we're doing remote, customer service. So again, I guess everybody's just having to sort of pivot. But this is a resilient industry. I mean, this is a bunch of hard charging people that have had to go through, prohibition and, everything else. So I think it's a resilient group, and they're trying new things and just trying to, get through this like everybody else.
Yeah, we've all had to learn to pivot to stay relevant in the industry.
Tell me a little bit about Emerge.
The virtual conference, and tell me how you've been able to pivot that during post-pandemic.
Yeah, so we were all just talking, I mean, when the pandemic kind of kicked off, and I'm going to say like March or April, here in Colorado, we locked down pretty hard. I know you guys did in Washington as well, California. We were participating in a lot of virtual events, moderating, attending, whatever, doing these things, but we noticed that there was something kind of missing from most of the virtual events. There was just, there were some things that were good, and there were others that weren't. So we put our heads together. It was myself, it was Andre Bork. It was just a bunch of our friends in the industry, other media entities, PR. And we just said, what if we did a community type event. We called it Emerge because we think that as an industry, we're going to emerge stronger. We're going to emerge smarter. It was just something kind of cool, but we truly created a community event where we all collaborated on the content, the sponsorships, and it was received really well. I think one of the biggest differentiators was that we have avatars. It's got the virtual reality hookup, so you can use your Google Cardboard or whatever. But it made the networking seem a little bit more like the good old days of going to events, and we noticed a little community forming around that. So we're getting ready to have our third Emerge. That's going to be this March. The theme is going to be cultivation and sustainability. And we'll have, rock star lineups, 3 auditoriums going. We'll have some really good tracks. And I can say that the last Emerge that we had, what we've noticed is it's really turning into a big giant leads exchange. We had almost 20,000 business cards exchanged by attendees and exhibitors at the last Emerge, which is not too shabby for a virtual event, especially for a lot of people itching to do business. So we heard from a lot of people that, they saw old contacts, they set up some business appointments. So in a way, that was kind of why we launched Emerge, was to sort of be a solution for the time being so that people could get together, learn, do some networking, and hopefully do some business. And it's kind of worked out in a pretty good fashion.
That's great. That's good timing too. I got a podcast later on with Jason Lammers of 420 Wholesale Pack, who is making joint tubes right here. This is made from 100% recycled material.
Oh, I love that.
In the US, we're making it, or he's making it in Washington. So it's domestic, it's cheaper than China, and it's made from recycled material. So everything that you're used to, we're finally taking plastic out of the environment. So I'm going to hook him up with you afterwards, because I think he should be a speaker or participant or sponsor.
Would love that
for sustainability, because this is what it's all about, is getting these out of landfills.
Yeah. And, that's one of the first things we all notice, right, in the industry is like, man, there's a lot of packaging. There's there's like a package and a package and a package. And, we're kind of like, all right, this is, one of the things I think that we really got to do, during this pandemic last year, as we were kind of going into the summer months, it was happening all across the country, but there was a lot of upheaval. There was a lot of, there were people marching in the streets. It was an opportunity, I think, to sort of reevaluate what we're doing and why we're doing. And I think that it was a good time for us as an industry to look inward and make sure that things like social equity and sustainability were front and center. I really think that it became out in the open. We had a little time for self-reflection. And if this is our sandbox and it's going to continue to grow, why not have our best foot forward when it comes to those issues, and sustainability being a huge one? It's our planet. There's a whole bunch of plastic in the ocean. And this is actually, the plant itself it's kind of a spiritual thing. It's a real connecting type thing. And it would be disingenuous, if we were not at least trying to use less plastic, not less packaging and stuff like that. So I think the industry wants to be sustainable. And I really think it's my job and yours to give a platform to these people that are doing innovative stuff. Because, that sparks creativity, that gets other people excited, and then eventually as a culture, you get what you celebrate.
Yeah, I think Santa packaging was a big story at the beginning of the year about using recycled materials. So what is your favorite story of 2020?
Oh man. It probably sounds cliched, but I really thought that it was cool when the pandemic was kicking off. And I thought it was cool that a lot of the companies pivoted and started making hand sanitizer, started making PPE. I even found out, we had a guest, that a lot of the labs that are set up for cannabis testing and stuff across the country, they could be converted, to do testing for Corona. So, they could do PCR testing and stuff. So, I just thought it was cool that the cannabis industry really grew up before our eyes and kind of stepped up, to bat, like a lot of other industries did too. There were breweries that were making hand sanitizer and stuff like that, so I just think it was cool that the cannabis industry, number one, was deemed essential. That's a really, really big deal. And then number two, the way that the different companies stepped up to just try to do what they could in the face of some really uncertain times. I think that was, I just think it reflected really highly upon the industry, and that there's no going back. There's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube. Cannabis is here to stay. It is essential. And those, everybody kind of just came together like a lot of other people did. I think that was something that's, pretty monumental from last year. What do you
Did you?
think?
Oh man, what's my favorite story?
Yeah.
Um, probably probably seeing the optimism in the industry from a stock market perspective after the election.
Mm.
So as soon as the House and the Senate and the presidency went Democratic, it changed everything. And we saw through our own AI-based investment fund called the C3 that our stocks in cannabis skyrocketed. And in fact,
Uh,
this year we're up 27% just in 3 weeks.
wow.
So that to me was really exciting. That was an indicator that, oh my God, I got to stop everything else I'm doing and focus on this fund. So we
Yeah.
raised 5 million since August, and that's where it's at, is looking at maybe federal legalization and all of the speculation into the market as we get to that point.
That's really cool, because I know for a while the people that had stocks were taking a beating. And it's like anything else, right? I mean, it goes in cycles and it goes up and down. And you're right. I think that was really cool to see that start to come out. And I think a little more scrutiny, is going into these mega multi-state operators and everything like that. And I think we're starting to look at how do they run their company? Is it just based on profits, or is it people, and sustainability and stuff? So I think we're starting to look a little bit more skeptically. It kind of reminded me of the .com era, where you just have this like big rush with all these companies and these crazy valuations, and eventually it kind of settles down, and then the cream rises to the top. We might be kind of moving in that direction there.
Yeah, and the brewery industry, because there's not a whole lot of craft growers yet that are growing, things that people actually want to smoke. So I think we'll get there eventually. I think one of the more
Like,
intriguing stories was initiated by Kyle Turley, who was an ex NFL player who was said some hyperbolic things about CBD and curing
I
corona,
remember.
and he had to step down from his companies and the board and everything because he wanted to stay true to his thoughts or whatever. And I thought it was crazier than shit in the beginning. And then,
Yeah.
once stories came out and you're like, oh wow, this has some legitimacy. Did you guys cover
Yeah.
that whole transition, and where do you guys stand on that concept?
Well, I think that, obviously we're a tech and science publication. And, Innovation and Tech Today being our flagship, like we truly believe that you've got to stick to the science, and that, look, it's going to put a black eye on the industry if you're claiming that the plant does things that you can't substantiate. So we don't want to go out there and, listen, man, the FDA, the Food and Drug, you can't claim stuff in your advertising or in your marketing that can't be backed up, and you don't want them sniffing around. So I think that, and I can't remember, I think he said that like his CBD cures, COVID, or it was something along those lines. And, he got attacked pretty hard on social media. I remember seeing that, kind of go down. Like it was like the shootout at the OK Corral on Twitter, and Kyle Turley, was in the middle of it all. And I can understand the guy's probably, pretty passionate about it, but you can't say stuff that cannot be, backed up. And so we have to be very careful, with the stuff that we put out, the stories that we put out. And I think as an industry, we've got to kind of police, ourselves, because if we start putting wild claims out there and stuff like that, it's gonna hurt the whole, it's going to hurt the whole industry. And so I think I think it kind of got squashed pretty quickly. But that's really, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was kind of one of those moments where it's like, okay, what are we going to do here? How are we going to deal with this? And there was a little bit of self-policing, I think, within, the industry and people there that were just like, dude, you can't say this shit. You just can't.
Right. Yeah, we want to stay as legitimate as possible, and so that was
Mm-hmm.
kind of a big issue. But transitioning from more of the stories to what people are saying on stage with your Emerge virtual events now, because this has to be virtual. Um, the events where I was in person in 2019, I was hearing a lot about mergers and acquisitions, international expansion, regulations, and investment capital increases. What are people talking about now, post pandemic? What are some of the topics that you're kind of hearing that, you're kind of seeing this new theme or whatever? What's kind of the ongoing direction?
Yeah, I think that, one of the things that we strived for was not to just recycle the same, topics and the same people. Like, not that there's anything wrong with it. Those are good topics and they're really good speakers. We just wanted to do something a little bit fresh, a little bit different. So I can say that at our first emerge, we had a lot of people tell us, like, I'd never seen speakers that diverse. We really had some just strong diversity across the board. And I think that was important. A lot of topics that were about, obviously, because it was September of last year. So there was still a lot of, there were people marching in the streets. This wasn't too long after, George Floyd. And so, I think social equity was something that was really important to us, and corporate responsibility. So those were a couple of our themes for the spring. And then we had our winter emerge, and that, we tried to shift gears. So we're not just, covering the same type of things. And this was more, health and wellness. We had a lot of focus on CBD. I think a lot of the topics are kind of the same, but I would say what's different is, like we said earlier, everybody's pivoting right now. And so we had some business tracks that were very popular, people interested in, how to market during a pandemic, right? That's something that was pretty interesting. How to message during, riots in the streets and stuff like that. How should a brand be positioning itself? Should a brand be quiet? Should a brand take a stand? I'm sure you saw lots of brands, they drew a line in the sand, and they came out for things like Black Lives Matter, and they came out for, certain social issues where maybe they wouldn't have before. So I think that was definitely something, how do we communicate during these times? What should our brand be doing? And I think that was something that was, that was pretty important, but also, the executional stuff, business. How do we conduct business now? How do I get appointments, during a pandemic? That stuff was also kind of unique. And I think that was just because of the unique time that we're, in. The kind of the audience wanted that kind of content, that was what they were hungry for. But the same things again, stock valuation and, growing your business, expansion, all that stuff. I think that, look, our numbers show that people were downloading our podcast more. They were visiting our website more. So during this time where people were at home, they were still consuming a lot of content, and people were looking to continue to learn and continue to, find ways to grow their business.
So with virtual events, how do you foresee that moving forward? When the pandemic is over and people are meeting in person, there's going to be a certain segment or group of folks that can't make it, don't want to make it, whatever. Probably going to have to be inclusive of those groups. Will it be virtual reality and augmented, headsets? What is it going to be that brings everything together virtually, and will that ever happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's a fair question because people miss connection. We miss people, but there's logistical issues with it. So I think that you're going to have some people that want to do virtual, and they can attend it during the day, and they can go and they can exchange their business cards. They can, at our event, you can be listening to a session and you can have it playing on a window on the corner of your screen, and you can be, doing emails, you can be networking. Like, it's something you can be attending, but you don't have to fly, hotel, wear a mask, all that stuff. I think that moving forward, you'll have a combination of in-person and maybe some hybrid. I think that you will still have some people that say, no, that's cool. Let me do this for 6 hours during the day, and then I go to little Johnny's soccer game, at night, and I eat dinner with my family. And I think some people are going to like that, but I think others as well. Sometimes you like to get out of the house. You want to go to Vegas, you want to go to, San Diego or Miami because there's a conference there. So I think there'll be a place for both, but I think that there will be more hybrid events. I mean, one thing I never understood was when you went to the in-person events before, a lot of times you had great speakers, you had great, great sessions and stuff like that. I don't know if they ever recorded those sessions or if they ever even tried to put them out digitally after. I'm talking big events like CES, right? We're a big partner with CES. That's the granddaddy of them all when it comes to conferences. 175,000 people. It takes over Vegas, and they have all these great speakers and stuff. I don't think they ever tried to simulcast it or record it and put it out later. I think if nothing more, events will start doing that to realize there's an audience that would probably pay for that content from home that they weren't even serving before. It was just all in person. So maybe we'll have more like hybrid type events, moving forward. But I don't know. What do you think?
I always thought it was weird that companies don't put that stuff out on YouTube for whatever reason. Either they want people to go to their website only, but it seems really limiting. I've never fully understood that. What is one of your favorite speakers or presentations or panels, either in person or virtually? What's something that either sticks out in your mind as a favorite, either entertaining or informative for whatever reason? What's something that you've heard that sticks out in your mind, and why?
We had at our last event, we had the Clios partnered with us, and they gave out a bunch of awards, and we got to have Burner and Run the Jewels. And it was really cool to have them there because number one, I didn't know who Run the Jewels was. And then I started listening to them, and now I'm like a big fan. I'm like, okay, late to the party, guys. But no, they're awesome. They're very, socially conscious, clever. And then when they came on and talked, for a good about a half hour at the last Emerge, and just kind of, just let it all out. They're very, very conscious of the fact that this industry has been, largely built on the backs of, brown people that are being locked up, and that, they're paying a lot in taxes. But, I think that what they were talking about made a lot of sense, because they're big stars, they're big celebrities. But they also realize that this industry has to be true to its roots, and there has to be some kind of give back, I think, to the community that really is suffering, and a lot of people are still locked away for the plant. So I think that it was cool that they brought it full circle, that these are big celebrities and entertainers, but they're not forgetting the fact that there's still some wrongs that need to be fixed. And there's, they brought up a good point. We're getting, taxed 30%, 35% or something like that. They thought it was just for potholes, and no, it's actually, they're getting taxed and they're locking people up, for this plant. So I just thought it was really cool to hear them. But another one of my favorite speakers is, we had Wanda James, and I just think she's a fireball. You know what I mean? Like, I just love to hear her talk, and she does not pull punches at all. I like the people that say it how it is, and anytime you get a chance to hear someone that is going to, not be afraid to ruffle some feathers, it feels authentic. And I think that authenticity is good, especially in this industry. So I like the little controversial, little edgy, kind of type people, because you don't know what they're going to say, but they're going to keep it real.
Well, let me transition into 2019. One of the top kind of tech stories for 2019 was going to be accurate dosing. So there was a lot of investment capital and a lot of technology put into trying to get people to not overdose and give the right accuracy and what you need. Where is that at? Like, what kind of technology are you guys seeing through your platforms kind of making its way into mainstream?
Yeah, you're right. There was a lot of energy. I feel like I'm time traveling right now, thinking back to 2019, because that was MJ Biz. I know we were talking with a lot of people. There was GoFire. There's a bunch of these others that it was a real important thing, right? We needed to be able to determine an accurate dosage when you're vaping, especially, was something. How much are you getting, so that you can, work on the efficacy, and so we can start figuring out what is it good for. I think that a lot of that technology is still evolving. I was on a panel for the what was it, the Whole Plant Expo, and it was on this exact topic right here. And I think there are still some apps and some basically ways. I think they're trying to crowdsource the information so that they can gather that data, and then they can determine, what strains are doing what to help with this. It's kind of like a Yelp sort of, that technology where people say, hey, this made me really sleepy, or this made me here. So it's all about the data. I think they are doing some going in that direction, but you're right. It's calmed down a little bit. It doesn't seem as big now, but it is super important, right? Especially as this plant is treated more as medicine. You've got to be able to have some kind of dosage standards, through all different delivery systems, whether they're, smoking flower or it's something like that. So I have noticed that there's some real smart people, behind the scenes there. So that technology is still moving forward. But I think that we're not quite there yet.
We're making strides. We don't have vitamin E acetate in our vapes anymore, causing issues. Vape batteries aren't
Yeah.
exploding in people's purses and pockets anymore. They're not clogging. The carts aren't clogging like they used to. So yeah, we've made some strides, I think.
That was another big one too, right? You know what I mean? The whole industry had to kind of take a deep breath when the we had the issue with the vaping, with the the people, some people died from it, right? You had some people that had some severe lung damage, and that kind of made the whole industry pause, and it really put it under the microscope. What are we putting in these cartridges, and that, yeah, that was a little touch and go. That probably put a little black eye on the on the vaping industry for sure.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to transition a little bit into censorship with cannabis and being online and social media and your publication and how you're able to circumnavigate that. In 2017, 2018, there was a lot of issues with Instagram, Facebook canceling people with cannabis. How has that evolved? Where are we at in terms of, freedom of speech, since a lot of platforms are canceling people for whatever reason, and platforms getting shut down entirely? Parler got shut down for its own reasons. So with cannabis, how do you see that kind of moving forward with social media and being able to advertise like it's a normal industry?
Yeah, it's still a nightmare. Like there's a real lack of consistency, I think, is what you'll find. Some people get their accounts shut down, and then there's others you see that have millions of followers, cannabis everywhere. We've tried to skate around that, that we're a publication with Cannabis and Tech Today. We're about the science and, the medical. We tried to, kind of dance that route too. And they were like, nah. In fact, all of our magazines got flagged whenever we tried to promote anything with Cannabis and Tech Today. They by association locked all of our other ones. So even innovation and tech, residential tech, none of it could do any kind of advertising. So we were in the penalty box for a really, really long time. And I think that, until it changes federally, I think that these guys are going to continue to, let's be honest, they don't care. They really don't care. I'm sure they would like to have the advertising money. That is something that obviously is the, straw that stirs the drink. But really, at the end of the day, when you're like, you shut down my Instagram account, you know what I mean? Like, they're not like, well, wait a second, we've got somebody over here in Seattle. They're super upset. We've got to, they don't even care. And that's funny too. When you think about it, with President Trump being his Twitter account taken down, his Facebook or whatever, I saw something that was an interesting take. I think it was in Popular Science in their newsletter, or maybe it was Wired, but it was like being banned on social media is actually a pretty freaking common occurrence. It is not such a strange thing that you violate terms of services and you get put on detention. I think a lot of people have been put in timeout, had their accounts suspended for a few days or whatever. And so I just think the platforms, they sort of rule, and that's where everybody's getting their news, it's where everybody's communicating. Hopefully that'll change soon, but we can't even sell subscriptions to our magazine, online. It's about as, if it even just has the word cannabis or anything around it, they've got algorithms, they pick that up and it's done. So we really have to just be creative, do a lot of old school stuff and a lot of affiliate things, through our partners, networks, our friends and stuff. But it's a minefield, and there's really not a lot of consistency. I don't know. I think maybe there's got to be something federally. Either they've got to decriminalize cannabis, or there's got to be something done where they will feel comfortable doing it. Because obviously they don't want just like banks, they don't want the federal government coming back on them. And so they're just covering their ass, they're CYA. And so the cannabis businesses, it's a random minefield of what the hell do we do? you know, I will tell you this though, LinkedIn has been good. LinkedIn has been good to us. LinkedIn has probably been the best platform, and then Twitter. I mean, anything goes there. But really, LinkedIn, I think, has been good for the business side of this business. We've had some of our best promotions for Emerge on there. Ticket sales again. People getting together on there, and then of course you've got the endemic. Like LeafWire, obviously, where you can get over there and you can promote your stuff too. But yeah, Facebook and Instagram is a tricky one, and I don't know if there's going to be any resolution to that anytime soon.
Facebook is a black hole for me, but I love LinkedIn. Favorite platform,
Yeah.
hands down. What's a good either cover story or story that you're looking forward to that's going to be coming out in Cannabis and Tech today in the future?
Yeah, so we just had Melissa Etheridge on the cover, and we always have different celebrities. We always try to tie something in. We're still selling magazines here, and so we've got some really cool people that we've had on the covers. If you go back, from the Kevin Smiths and Cheech and Chong and Jim Belushi and stuff like that. I mean, I like Jim Belushi a lot. I am a big fan of some of his movies and stuff growing up. And I think a lot of people in the industry, they were like, oh, he's just a Hollywood guy, trying to cash in here. I think he really wants to be a cannabis grower and a farmer. And I think that he's just kind of fun to watch. He had a show on Discovery. He spoke at Emerge. He does a lot with Last Prisoner Project. He was on our cover, and he actually let our managing editor, Trish, fly out and stay at his farm, which was just really cool. Like he's just a cool guy. You know what I mean? I saw him here in Colorado. He came with Dan Aykroyd. They were promoting the Blues Brother brand. They came out with the card and the get-ups and stuff, and they had face masks because it's COVID. But he's a cool dude. I like him. He's a character. But I really do think he cares about the plant and the industry as well. So he was one that we had there. And for the spring, we're not sure, but we were talking about Snoop. He was going to be at the Cleos. They were giving him a Lifetime Achievement Award, and kind of the most Snoop thing ever. Like, he didn't show up to accept his award, And so anyways, but he really wanted to be on the cover of the spring issue. So I guess I'd say stay tuned. We may have Snoop Dogg for the spring issue, as people said they wanted to, but then again, sometimes Snoop does what Snoop does. So we'll see if we get him for the spring.
Remind me when the Emerge is coming up, and tell me what about it you're looking forward to, either a specific topic or speaker or whatever else.
Yeah, so looking at the dates, it's going to be March 15th through the 17th. And we'll have, again, 3 auditoriums chock full of different sessions. Tickets will go on sale, I believe, next week. And it's, again, the theme is going to be cultivation and sustainability, but there will be, probably a good 45 sessions. So there's something for everyone. And then afterwards, when it's over, we email links to all the people that have a ticket. The cool thing about Emerge is the platform's open for 90 days. So when you buy your ticket and you go to Emerge and you come in there and you mob around, you create your avatar, after the 3 days is over, that world is still open. And so we have private business events in there. It's literally like going into a video game world. There's a blimp that flies around, all the virtual assistants are in there. It's like being in a video game, but for business, and it's open for 90 days. And we had, the National Association of Cannabis Business. They had a couple hundred people come. We opened up Emerge, and they invited them in, and they had their social equity day there, so we can do private business events in there. I'm sure we could do like bar mitzvahs, weddings, like whatever, man, we can rent this bad boy out. But yeah, it's the 15th through the 17th. But when you buy a ticket, you get the whole 90 days and you get access to all that content as well. So, you ever been to an event where there's like 2 people you want to see at the same time, and you got to pick, what session to go to? Here, we send it to you all afterwards. And so that way you can kind of peruse it at your convenience. You don't miss anything, and you still get all the networking, exchanging business cards and chopping it up with all the exhibitors and sponsors. So yeah, it'll be the 15th through the 17th, and cultivation, sustainability, but there'll be a ton of tracks. And we always are lucky that we get really, really good speakers and panels, because they're all they're our friends from all across the industry.
Well, I'm going to have to call you during it. On Monday, when we go live, I'm going to give you a call because you can do that. You can interact with people. You can tap them on the shoulder. You
Yeah.
can call. So we'll do that. I'm going to try and call you if you're available and free for 4 minutes and 20 seconds, just to try the feature out and chat on the Emerge on March 15th. Anything else I missed?
Yeah.
Anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add to that we have you know, a group of people that meets under the escalators at the Emerge Virtual Conference Center. They go meet under the escalators and they all call each other, right? And they have a virtual smoke session. So everybody's at their house, they're in their office or whatever, but all their avatars are standing there in a big circle underneath there, and it's all the cool kids. There's like 15, 20 people. Then someone puts a Zoom link in there and then we're all talking and smoking. So again, it's not the same as in person, but it's about as close as you're going to get during a pandemic. And we went really far to get this platform first time used in North America on this kind of scale, you know, just so the industry could get back together. So love to see everybody there. We're definitely speaker applications are open. We love sponsors. We can't do this without the support of our sponsors and our alliance partners, you know, our other media friends out there that help promote it. And so anybody who wants to get involved, we're super easy to get a hold of. emergecanna.com is the website. And yeah, tickets should go on sale next week, and it should be a lot of fun. And hopefully we'll just keep growing this little thing and help us get through the pandemic till we get back to 20,000 people at a time at MJ Biz, you know, 30,000 or whatever.
Yeah, easily the best virtual conference I've seen, and not just for cannabis, but industry wide. It's easily the best virtual that I've seen. So I am excited about the potential for the Oculus, or, you know, hardware and software like VR to kind of make it a little bit more in person. But this is about as good as we can get.
Yeah. And by the way, we put some requests in. So we had people last time, they were like, hey man, can we update the avatar's clothes? Hey, we want to be able to do this, you know, hey, we want to do that. So we are listening, people, give us feedback. We're asking the developers, you know, we were even going to get a Snoop avatar. He said he wanted to walk around and everything like that. And we were like, can you guys create a, you know, with a 6'4", you know, guy with braids and stuff like that? And they all went and talked and they were like, yes, we will create one for him. So they were going to make him his own Snoop avatar, which would be the first time in the history of Emerge. But I guess if you're a big celebrity, you know, and you've got 40 million Instagram followers, they will make you your own avatar.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap that one up. I want to thank my guest, Charles Warner. He is the CEO and founder of Cannabis Tech Today, as well as the Emerge Virtual Conference. Chuck, thanks for being on the podcast.
Dude, thanks so much for having me, man. Love what you're doing there and appreciate the support.
Yeah, we'll have to get you back on when they're not doing construction up above. It's a little distracting, I'm not going to lie, but I appreciate you being on the podcast.
Yeah, right. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out. Cool. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.